Hello, everyone, and welcome to this State of Testing report, survey, and presentation. Let's give 1 or 2 more minutes, and we'll get started. Okay, Joel, by the way, hi. And we'll get started with the formalization pretty soon. Okay. So once again, welcome everyone to our State of Testing 2024 report review session or webinar, or however we don't want to call it, where the idea, has become a tradition where every year after we release the State of Testing report, then we like to go a little bit over the stuff that we think it's a little bit interesting, and again, just to share with everyone about what we have in here. We are recording the session, so if needed, you can always download it, and let's get started. So just again, formalities, a little bit about the organizers of the project of the State of Testing survey and report. It has been a collaboration for a number of years, actually, since we got started, between PractiTest, and again, we're a test management solution, end-to-end platform, integrating with a lot of different systems and organizations. And I think that if they ask me what's the difference with practice and the other solutions, it's more about how do we manage complex information, and how can we help organizations to get a better idea of all the value that they can get from their complex information. But more than anything else, I invite you to go ahead and check us out if you want. And Tea Time with Testers that we have been partnering for a long time. Lalit, do you want to intro Tea Time for a second?
Sure, Joel. Hi, everyone. Tea Time with Testers is a software testing publication that has been running around for over 12 years now. It used to be monthly publication, but now it's a quarterly one. It's free. Contribution is also free. And feel free to check it out, subscribe. You will find out lots of interesting ideas and thoughts published over the decade, and new ideas coming in as a voice for testing community.
And one of the things that I love about Dealing with Testers is that they manage, or Lalit and the team managed to include the voices and opinions and experience for both people with a lot of experience on the one hand, but also new voices. So again, really recommend that it's free. No reason why not to download it. And again, go ahead and take a read. I really enjoy it. And if you want to contribute to Tea Time with Testers,
Absolutely,
you can also contact the editorial staff about it. Now, what is the State of Testing? And hopefully you've heard about us before, but the idea of the State of Testing came from a collaboration. Lalit and myself, we've known each other for more years than we want to accept. And it started from myself. I think about 11, 12 years ago, I wanted to write a blog post about testing and metrics on testing. I was looking for information about it, and I couldn't find anywhere in the internet, anywhere where I could say, okay, these are the statistics explaining what's going on in the testing world on an aggregated measure. And I went to Lalit and I asked him, hey, man, do you know anything about it? And he was actually, no, I don't. So we put our heads together and we said, okay, we have to do this. And we started a tradition. This is the 11th year in a row where what we want to do is to survey the community. We want to understand how people are working, what is bothering us, what technologies are we using, how is methodology and technology affecting the way that we're working. And the idea is to, first of all, provide a snapshot of what's going on today. But if you look at it in perspective, because every one of these reports, they're free to access and you can download as many as you want and work with them. And there are a lot of people who are actually working with them and using this information. You can get a vector analysis of where we're heading. And again, it's not only about where we are, it's what direction we're heading into. And there are some interesting points in here and aspects that as testers, as testing professionals, should help us to prepare better, get better ideas, what we need to be doing and working on. And again, just go ahead and tap the community. So it's 100% free. Go ahead and download it. It's been, again, translated to multiple languages, and it's always fun to see that. And you're more than invited to take it from practice.com/state of testing. But enough about intros and general stuff. Let's try to introduce our panel. So you know what? Let's do it from the other way around. I hate to introduce myself first. So let's start from the right side and go to the left side. So Gitte, hi.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Gitte Ottosen. I'm from Denmark. sitting currently in Skanderborg, which is in the mainland of Denmark, working with testing for 29 years by now, with both traditional, so waterfall and V-model, but also in a lot of agile and skilled agile contexts. I do a lot of training, but mostly I'm a test manager or a program test manager, and loves everything about testing.
Sounds good. Now we're going to go, I think, about 5 hours or 7 hours ahead in the world, and move over to Erika. Erika, what's up?
Hey there. Hey, my name's Erika Chestnut. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I have been in testing, I guess just about the same amount of time, a few decades, I guess now, which is really crazy to say. And I'm very passionate about developing cultures of quality in organizations. And I started off as a developer and moved into quality, and just became very passionate about how we move the needle for cultural quality across our engineering teams. I'm currently leading quality for Realtor.com. And I also moonlight, if you will, as a quality leadership coach for individuals and women in tech.
Yeah, and for those of you who haven't heard about Women in Tech, it's a great initiative. It's a great community of practitioners. And obviously, I'm not a woman, but I do have 2 girls, and I encourage them to go into technology a lot. And my wife's actually a project manager in a high-tech company. I think that there's still a lot to be done about, a lot to be said about making sure that we have equality in there. So I really, really appreciate that. It's actually a great effort that people are doing. Not to say guys, they always correct. Don't say guys. You people are doing. Okay, let's continue. Lalit, what's up? You want to say hi?
Hi. I don't think you can see me, but I believe you feel me. I'm in software tech field for around 16 years now, and all my 16 years have been spent in testing and quality area, and some maybe a couple of extra years in the extra work I do because I like testing so much. Currently, I'm working with Accenture Sound in Germany, looking after the quality engineering practices and helping our clients more with product engineering and improving on quality problems. I'm also supporting Accenture Quality Engineering Services TAC as one of the group lead for innovation and thought leadership. And yeah, apart from all those things, I keep doing lots of different things in software testing field, like state of testing, dynamic testers, and debating on stuff in a healthy way.
Yeah, debating is always interesting and important, especially with a lot of people in the community. So last but not least, sorry, my name is Joel. I'm a recovering Costa Rican. I was born and raised in Costa Rica, but have been living in Israel for the last around 22 years. Just to give an idea, I started testing back when the Y2K bug was a thing. And even though I thought it would be my student work, because it was either that or tending tables, I liked it so much that I stayed. And I've worked in companies in the US, done consultant in Europe and Israel as well. Today, I'm a chief product officer on PractiTest. And again, as a tester, it's actually one of the coolest jobs because you get to talk with a lot of different organizations, very large and very small, and understand how they're working and understand how they're testing. And it's more about learning than assessing them, because you always have something to learn from every organization. Maybe even if they're not doing everything right, they're going to be doing something that is a little bit different. And I really, really enjoy talking with people about testing. By the way, this morning, for example, not a company, but another person who's opening a startup in testing came up with a great idea, for example, about how can they integrate testing in production and all the instrumentation in order to calibrate their automation suite. So again, love testing and everything that is done with that. And again, happy to be here. Now, let's get started. So the way that we're going to go on the sessions, basically, we selected a number of statistics out of the state of testing survey. And what I want to do is I want to present them, explain what we're seeing. Obviously, everyone can see something a little bit different if they look hard enough. But then I want to get the ideas of what everyone on the panel thinks about it. What does it say about the community today, and where are we heading with that? And I do remind the people in the audience, if you have questions, comments, or anything, go ahead and share them with us. We're looking into that all the time, and if anything comes up, then we'll just bring it forward. So the first point that we're bringing here is, I was talking about automation, and I think that everyone understands now that automation, especially when we're working on agile, DevOps, iterative places, we have the fact, something that we didn't have maybe when we were working waterfall, we cannot test everything, okay? The least we test, the better that we're going to be working, because that means that we can release the product faster. Now, that I'm saying obviously what we test manually. So a lot of people are asking themselves, if we're doing automation, it should have a repercussion on the amount of manual testing that we do. And there's an open discussion about it. Yes, no, why? But we've asked people for a number of years now, how much has automation helped you to reduce the amount of manual testing efforts that you've been doing? And if you notice here, the numbers are more or less the same on the sides, okay? On the top, we have automation has replaced all of our manual testing. Automation has replaced 75% of our manual testing. At the bottom, we don't have automation at all. But what we can see is that from 2023 to 2024, we see an increase to the middle size to, okay, automation has replaced between 50 or 25% and 50% of our manual testing efforts, okay? What do you think about this statement? What is it telling you about, again, what's going on today and what's going on tomorrow? And let's start from the order that we introduce people to the session. So Gitte, what do you think about this?
I'm really curious about it, to be honest, because some of my experiences from quite a few assignments by now, and also from my colleagues, is that we are still battling quite a bit to get started, and that when companies start automating, they often they want to start from the top of the pyramid. So they want to start with doing end-to-end automation, which is, nobody builds a pyramid from the top, right? So I'm curious, and what kind of manual testing have they replaced with automation? Is it some of the tedious manual regression testing of functions, or are they actually working towards automation end-to-end? So I'm curious of what is it they have replaced. And I was curious with one of the comments in the report, because it says that there was something about a dream of 100% automation, where I might have another question: that who has that dream? Because I mean, I think that's it's ambitious and maybe also a little bit unrealistic. And does it add value? Is it the right 50% that they have automated? So I am always curious in diving into. I think companies are battling to get automation up and running, for being able to do CI, CD, being able to be agile, but very few are succeeding. At least when you come above unit and unit integration test. That's
nice
my
points.
consider.
No, it's interesting. I like it. Erika, how about you? Wait, I'm gonna say what I need to say. Yes. No,
Yeah,
we
I
need to
clicked
unmute
it.
ourselves. I know.
Yes, I clicked it, but it didn't quite. What I actually found most interesting about this report was that we had a 1% decrease in the replacing all manual testing efforts, and correlations to the rest of the report, because I think there is, within our community, we're being more vocal about the need to still have manual testing, especially with the introduction of more AI, because we've had AI. It's just gotten better in this last year or two, right? But I think we're becoming more vocal about the need to balance it. And so having that automation where it's at 50-25%, that 25 to 50%, I think creates the opportunity where it's like, it's the compromise, it's the middle ground. But to Gitte's point, right, we don't build a pyramid from the top. And that's a challenge that we have that I've seen in most of the organizations that I join, is that we are bloating the top of the pyramid with end-to-end tests, and they're not as valuable, they're not as strategic, they're taking longer, maintenance is difficult, they become flaky, there's all these challenges with it, and we're not looking at the base of that pyramid and really, really deep diving into what that strategy looks like with the quality team, because the developers are building mostly that unit test, and so they're doing it independently of a larger quality strategy. And so I think this is indicative of the compromise that we're making to say we have strong automation, and it is replacing some of the heavy load that comes with manual testing, but we still have work to do to get further down in the base of that pyramid to really make valuable changes. Because when we're talking about replacing manual testing, I'm immediately I say it is end-to-end top of the pyramid testing that we're talking about here. And we're not talking about that high value, quick turn, strong unit testing at the base of the pyramid.
Sounds reasonable and also interesting. Lalit, what's your take on this?
Well, quite interesting points already covered by Erika and also Gitte. Particularly if we are to think about the numbers not really changing that much, I believe people are probably simply telling us about the percentage of their existing regression, so to speak, that is now automated, which they apparently consider as manual testing has been replaced by automation. But probably we need to also reflect on the maintenance overhead which teams create when they write automation. So what is it that's not letting them proceed with year by year progression of stuff? Is it something that keeps them busy with, keeping the pipelines green and forever running into maintenance mode? What they really mean by replacing stuff? Is it only the test execution that they are talking about, or they are using automation for replacing any manual activities or tasks which are not necessarily testing or test case execution, but testing related stuff? So I think there are lots of possible interpretations here, and maybe in future reports we could consider drilling this deeper and understanding. Let's talk all things automation.
And I think that we should, but I'm going to take a little bit of a devil's advocate approach here, and I think that one of the things that usually happens is that you have a need or you have a reality that is changed for you. Again, you don't ask for it to change, but someone modifies it for you, and then you adapt to it. And at least in the case of PractiTest, for example, we're a software development firm, but also many of our customers that I'm in touch with, fact of the matter is that they told us, okay, we're releasing right now in 2-week sprints, and you don't really have a lot of time to test. So choose what you're going to be doing. Okay, either start automating, and Gitte, I'm with you. It's not the right way to work when you need to do end-to-end coverage tests for sanity or regression. That magic safety net that it's going to be checking the places where we're not. But a lot of organizations, us included, are trying to use that in order to get that warm, fuzzy feeling. It's not replacing the test that we do on the user story. It's not replacing the risk assessments that we're going to be doing on that, or the bug verifications that we're doing there. I think that is a very, very big part of it. But a lot of that sanity test, regression test towards the end, that we don't have time. They're giving us half a day to do hardening. So either you have automation doing that, or you're taking more risk than you are. I think that is the place that we're seeing more people do. Now, I do know at least one company that came to us and says, oh, we have 100% automation. We went to them. I was very curious to see what they have. So all of their formal tests are 100% automated. What people don't really count is when you're doing exploratory testing, when you're doing feature validation, where you're doing bug hunting. People, that's manual testing. So please, you can call it whatever you want, but you still have testing there. I don't think that this is one of those places where we're going to be replacing testers with automation. But I think that people are taking a little bit more advantage of automation, as you were saying, for the heavy loading or for the repetitive task, or for that warm, fuzzy feeling of the safety net that we all know that it's more an illusion than anything else. But I do think that it's somewhere around that.
Can I add a small comment more? Because if you start combining some of your numbers, right, then it gets really interesting, because we see that there's still a challenge in terms of improving the level of automation, right? That's what we see here in number 12. But if you see number 11, it says that 42% is not confident. 42% of all asked are not confident in writing test automation. And if you look in number 23, you see that which is about competences, which competences are the most important for testers. You see that number 2, 3, 4, and 6 that are all concerned with technical skills that are necessary to be able to automate are going down. You see that test design skills.
Just to give a little bit of interpretation, you're talking about the answers on the report itself, so that people don't think that we're question 11 something. And those are really important points that you're bringing. The fact that
we need the competences to up.
By the way, yes and no, because I think that there's something to what you're saying. I think that automated projects that are successful are those that are treating automation as software development. And so you do need that competence, because if you're going to be doing record playback, it's not going to work. But yes, I'm with you on that. By the way, someone here asked, what are the numbers that Gitte was saying? If you go download the report, then what you will see is that every answer has a number. This is, I think, question 12. And Gitte was saying about the previous question and some other questions. And yes, you need to look at the whole report in context, because it tells a very complete story, I would like to say. Okay, so take a look into that. Again, just going to read a comment here very quick, and then we're going to move to the next question. We're working slowly. How does the feedback, Dalbir Sambi, sorry if I killed your name. How does the feedback for the automation compare against the Dora core model for 1, the ways to improve test automation, and 2, if they are falling into the common pitfalls? I'm not aware of the Dora core model. Anyone on the panel is aware of the Dora core model?
We're talking about Dora, just the Dora metrics, the 4 Dora metrics. Is that what we're referring to? And how?
I'm thinking it might be. Do you want to explain what that is for the rest of us?
Well, there are 4 metrics that the book that came out of the book Accelerate. Right. That we've got change rate failure, we've got mean time to resolution. And the other 2 are slipping away from me right now.
No worries. So we're talking about those metrics.
There are 4 top metrics that we want to look at to understand velocity and health of our deliverables and health of our products as they move through the development life cycle. And so, the question went away. Shucky darn. There were two questions in there.
How does the feedback compare against the Dora core model? For the ways to improve test automation, and if they're falling into the common pitfalls.
Yeah, I'd have to look again at the specific ways that they talk about improving test automation along with the Dora model. But some of the pitfalls, that definitely could be interesting, especially with the adoption of AI, as we talk about that coming up. But I think it's the pitfalls around like not having unit tests in place, not having a strong unit test framework, having too much bloat at the top of the pyramid. Those are some of the challenges, right? That reduce, for example, when you don't have enough unit testing, or you have too much bloat at the top of the pyramid, it reduces your mean time to resolution, your time to restore, because you cannot revert quickly. Right.
Yeah.
You may have some rollback opportunities, but actually resolving the problem takes longer, because you have you either have a larger end-to-end top of the pyramid test suite, or you don't have enough testing to cover it without manual testing, which is going to take longer. So those are some of the challenges, like top of mind per this slide, that I would think of. I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, and I think that it's an open question, but also I'm going to leave here the link to the Dora Dev research that is there. I think that it's going to be valuable, but I'm getting notes here that we need to move on, because we're still at the first question and we have another couple to do. So nice points. Now, let's talk a little bit about how our evolution, I was talking about the evolution that we're doing towards iterative models. And for those of you who don't know, and sometimes we get into that, iterative models are, again, Agile, DevOps, all the ones that we're doing, XP, if you're working XP. there are some of those things that people always say that should be improving. For example, our team is more organized and stable, and we do see that people more than 50% strongly agree. Increased release of features and functionality, and again, more or less the same products they're saying, because we're moving into iterative, then we're releasing more. Improve overall testing levels, again, the same numbers. And then we start seeing something more interesting here. Enhanced involvement of non-testers in testing. We see that even though it's still on the highs, it's now more on the middle. Reduction of serious bugs in or escaping bugs in production goes up, and then again, improved collaborations with customer-facing team is going down. So I think that at least for me, the interesting points when I look here are the fact that someone told us, okay, when we go into Agile or in DevOps, or again, let's talk about Agile, everyone is in charge of quality. It's not only testers who should be doing testing. And apparently the reality here is saying that, well, maybe in theory, but not in practice. So you may, how are we seeing that? And again, the other one that we're seeing here is that the whole idea of Agile was for the development team to be closer to our end users, to our customers, to feel them more and be able to react more to what they're doing, not to have those middle factors or a lot of time between one and the other. And again, here we see a weaker reaction than to the other points. How do we see, what else do you see here, and what are the factors? And let's start actually with Erika to do a little bit of a round. What do you see here? Are we seeing something that is true? Are we seeing something that is improving? What is your take on this point?
I mean, true is subjective, right? But
depends on who you ask, but I'm going to go with you and say yes.
Truth is subjective. Listen, you know what I called out here was I found it interesting that the reduction in serious bugs escaping into production was increased, more agreed, but then there was less collaboration with the customer-facing teams. And so I always like to say that quality is the voice of the customer inside of an organization. And to see that there's less engagement, right, overall, that most people are saying that we, in this case, are not improving as much. I find that challenging, that we're not engaging as highly as before. At the customer level, at the beginning, or at the end of the conversation with the customer. And so how do we really know that we're reducing those serious bugs? How do we know that we're providing that highest value for our customers? That was one of the challenges that I was keying off of here.
Okay. Gitte, how about you?
I tend to agree. I mean, if we look at the manifesto and the principles, we are talking about delivering value to our end users, to our customers. But I think many of the implementations we see of, for example, Scrum, what we've made is not truly cross-functional teams. We have made multidisciplinary teams. So there's been defined some roles that are the ones that are talking to the business, that are the ones that gets the requirements from the business. It's not necessarily something that the team is involved in as such. Now, I mean, this is generalizing, because of course there are lots of teams out there that has a good collaboration, but I have seen many examples the later years of teams where only the product owner or a business analyst is talking directly with the end users, and they become the filter. So it's just another filter. It's a smaller filter, but the filter is still there. So that's one concern. I still see challenges in testers being involved in that part, even though it is becoming better. And in terms of involvement of non-testers in testing, I see two challenges. I see challenges where a lot of agile teams don't have any testers. They don't have any with the testing competences in there. There's developers and a PO. So there's lacking competences in testing. That's one problem that is actually not visible here. But also in teams where we have testers, we tend to see that it becomes multidisciplinary again. So, we got a tester, he or she will be doing the testing. Then we don't have to. And I don't think, and they don't do it because they hate it. They do it because they're quite busy with doing software development, trying to keep up with all the stuff coming in that we need to build. and not having sufficient competences to do proper testing. So I think it is a challenge still. I can recognize that definitely.
I love your call out, Gitte, about the non-testers, because I wonder if this is coming from teams that are more lean, that have more lean quality teams, and they are spread across the organization, and so it's a byproduct of the enhanced involvement of non-testers and testings is a byproduct of a lean quality organization, which we definitely saw. We've seen this over time, right? Where we have these mountains and valleys of, oh, we need testers, oh, we don't need testers, oh, we need testers, we don't need testers. And so when they're in that we don't need testers, yes, the involvement for non-testers goes up because there are maybe a few sprinkled about, and then we get into quality coach and quality advocate, and they're trying to provide strategy and not hands-on testing, which is valuable, which is 100% valuable, but you still wind up with people that are not in the discipline, engaged deeply in the conversation on a regular basis, and they're taking sound bites from the advocate or the coach, and they don't have somebody walking alongside them, but I think it's a byproduct of some of that. We need testers, we don't need testers, we need testers, we don't need testers.
Yeah, and plus I think that misinterpretation of some of the Scrum guides over the years, saying, okay, it's a development team. Since it's a development team, it can only consist of developers. So let's get rid of the testers. It's a story that keeps repeating itself.
I haven't seen that in a long time. I've seen it. I remember
the last two assignments I've been in, I've been the only one with the title containing anything about testing.
The question is if you were the only one with the skills, because I do remember a time, and it was incredible here, where Agile was just taking place, and some companies were just saying, hey, we don't need testers, everyone's in charge of quality, and they literally let go of all their testing teams, everyone. Now, what happened was that they released a couple of very, very bad releases, and then they came literally calling back to these people they had just fired and rehired them because they say, oh, we didn't understand it correctly. And so that was, but it was a number of years ago, I need to say. Now, the thing to take into account on these answers, for example, is that there are bias towards organizations that do have testers, and only because people who answered this questionnaire are mostly testers. So those organizations that don't have testers, and maybe in those organizations they don't have anything else to do, they have to test, they're not going to be represented here. And that's a very good, valid point on that. I like that. Lalit, where are you with this? Then I'm sorry.
I'm wondering which question to answer first. So I will first answer the testers and non-testers dilemma. I wrote a big blog on it. In my experience, it highly depends on the context in which teams are operating, what kind of software they are delivering, what is the business model, what is the risk associated with releasing a buggy product, and what they have to basically pay. Because I have been on the both sides. I have been in the teams where they could absolutely not function without skill testing. And I have been also in teams where I left the team because I think I wasn't really adding any value because of the nature of the product we were developing. So the fundamental problem in my understanding is when people see testing as a cost, they tend to reduce that cost by distributing that responsibility over the team members without really realizing that it's essentially a skill that they also need to distribute it. Anything. And in the cases where people see testing as an investment, they tend to make some conscious provisions to keep the testing knowledge and the expertise alive in the team and spread it further. I mean, it doesn't hurt to educate developers and expect some basic testing done from them. I'm not going to accept some user story coming to me for testing if it doesn't fulfill the bare minimum acceptance criteria. But there has to be someone, doesn't matter if you call them testers or not, who does some technical explorations, experimentations, and try to figure out in what many other ways this is not going to work. If you can live without that exploration, good for you. But if this is something that you care about, you need to have somebody taking care of the stuff. Coming back to the original question here, I'm not surprised about the teams for whom this is working out. At the same time, I'm also not surprised for the teams who strongly disagree. Because even if we say it's about collaboration, it's also about how people are collaborating, what techniques they have in place, how they are really coming together to avoid any problems in the requirements or any loopholes before those get converted into code problems. So if teams know how to effectively collaborate, if they have tools, techniques, and mechanism in place to collaborate effectively, yes, you can most certainly avoid uh, probably serious bugs from getting executed in production. But if you don't know, you are just adding process overhead and burning yourself out, and you're probably just doing tick box exercises and calling it agile, which doesn't help.
Yeah, and I
My
agree
rant
on
is
that
over.
part. I agree on that part that a lot of people call agile a lot of different things that don't really match the intentions of the original agile definition people. In any case, anything else to add, or we move over to our next question?
I could add actually. So
Thank you.
sorry, just one. So very reason I created QCSD, Quality Conscious Software Delivery Framework, was to give people some concrete practices, mechanism to do this collaboration in meaningful way. It talks about risk assessment together, practicing coverage sessions together, paying for testability, finding out problems in business requirements that are getting wrongly converted into engineering actions. Then there is a lot to discuss and debate over. I would recommend people to check it out. It's an interesting document, and I will be happy to have any conversation
It
on the
actually
topic.
sounds interesting, for sure.
It is.
Okay. Now I want to move to another question, and we're gonna start talking about the start of the IT world lately, development world, and AI. And the last two questions, I believe, are around AI. The first one is, how are you using AI tools? And again, this goes from the product perspective. There are so many tools in the market, but how are you using AI to improve your testing process? Around 60% are not using AI at all. Okay, got it. Some are using for test creation, test case optimization. That's an interesting one. Test planning and other. Let's start by each one of us. Where are you using, if you are using AI for any testing relating process? Lalit, let's start with you. Are you using AI? Are you seeing people using AI at this point, or is it only academic?
Yeah, sure. So I'm personally using it more as an assistant for, or let's say sparring partner when I want to brainstorm different things. I don't really use it for generating test cases, but I'm effectively using it for doing some research around domain, giving me some extra insights into topics I'm not aware about. For example, I was the other day writing test strategy for medical healthcare software, and interacting with AI, particularly ChatGPT, gave me some interesting insights into what matters for healthcare product testing, what are the domain-specific constraints there, what I should be looking into. That was an useful interaction. And sometimes I also use to create a quick and dirty skeleton code, so to speak, if I am to write some configuration file for automation framework, or if I'm to quickly write some API test in particular programming language. Generating such code snippets as a skeleton or foundational stuff helps me save a lot of time, which I can then later refactor. But that's pretty much my interaction with AI has been so far.
Okay. Gitte, how about you? Where are you seeing that lately?
I've been using it for as inspiration for test design, for generation of test data. I'm very cautious in terms of using it for test design. We actually had a fun incident with it as late as this morning. We were talking about different coverage types in terms of some training material we were doing, and asked it to generate test cases based on a case for a certain coverage. coverage type, and it misfired. It made way too many test cases compared to what we asked with the coverage type. So we are trying to experiment with it in the team and using it. Also, if we generate test data, as I said, but we're really cautious as to not just being blue-eyed and believe whatever comes out of it. And I think that's the biggest danger in this, in terms of test case creation and test data creation, is that I'm really concerned that people think that now we don't need to understand tests, that our test profession anymore. We don't need to understand test design anymore because AI will do it for us. But and so that's my biggest concern. But we are trying and we are experimenting, and it is helpful. It is helpful if we prompt it right and if we are critical in evaluating what comes out of it, which is, I think, the biggest point here.
And I just want to add here, there's a question here, what AI tools are you using? And can you give a few examples if you just want to throw something out?
I'm using ChatGPT primarily for this. Lately also using the Copilot in Bing just to see the two. But until now, I'm just using ChatGPT directly. I've been in a project where we trained a on-site version of ChatGPT to understand some process descriptions and generate top-level requirements based on that, not as the final requirements, but as a foundation for a discussion with the business. So how do these requirements make sense? And there are some plans there in saying, okay, so can it then take it the next step? But that remains to be seen.
Sounds interesting. Erika, how about you? Have you seen any AI usage in your areas?
Yeah, mostly Copilot is the conversation right now, right? Around like how do we use that to improve automation? And it reminds me of when .NET rolled out. I'm dating myself, but you know, that transition to just being able to type, you know, the class and say dot and get all of the information. People were still very untrusting of it. Like, no, like I'm missing some things. And it's just, it's the development of that muscle and that comfort, but also making sure, I mean, this is well past, you know, just dot notation, of course, but the getting comfortable with what it looks like, how it feels. And so there's some Copilot usage in my organization now. I use ChatGPT a lot and Gemini. Excuse me. I like to compare the different solutions out there and throw in. I use it for test strategy, like just brainstorming. It gives me a brainstorming partner and saying, okay, hey, listen, I'm thinking about, here's my muddled thoughts. Help me like organize these. Give me like a, you know, an initial structure for this conversation. Give me what are the insights that you have based on this information that I'm sharing. Tell me sentiment. These are some of the feedback that I got. Tell me what the sentiment overall is. I love to take my notes, especially like I'll do conversations across multiple people, and then I'll take my notes and drop them in and say, what is the overall sentiment? What are key themes, right? And then look at that, but I still have to analyze it. I still have to deep dive into it. I still have to validate it, right? And I think that's the key, is that you can't, as Gitte said, you can't be blue-eyed about it, right? You can't just be like, oh, this is all roses, everything's great. You gave me an answer and that is 100% correct. No.
I'm 100% with you, and I think that it reminds me not so much of .NET, but the Stack Overflow. There's a lot of people who are Stack Overflow developers. Okay, and I had this conversation. Yeah, I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine. He's into development. He's into development in biosciences. And we're all adult people. We don't really write a lot of code. And he told me, I just got into a project where I had to write a lot of code, and Copilot was great. And it took a lot of work on this. And I'm going, my friend's name is Guy. And like, Guy, come on. The only reason that it took so much work is that you can then go over the code and say, oh, this is right and this is wrong. If you do not have the experience to say this is right and this is wrong, then it would have taken you over a lot of rabbit holes and a lot of stuff. So it's the same with Stack Overflow. It's good for you to get shortcuts, but it's not going to make the decisions for you, and it might be more harmful than helpful in that sense. So I think that we need to take it not with a pinch of salt, maybe a large sack of salt and a lot of even more caution in there. But I do agree that it's a great place to get ideas, especially, oh, I almost forgot to test this, especially if you're very experienced, you might miss something there. One thing that, again, sorry for the self publishing here, but we're using AI a little bit different in PractiTest here. And again, it's just an idea. Hopefully it'll catch more. But one of the things that we're doing, it's more of machine learning and AI together. We're able to go over all the test cases that you're running in your project and give you what we call a value score. And the value score is interesting. It says, okay, I'm not going to give you a grade, but I'm going to tell you if you have 10 test cases, based on the history of your project and the correspondence of your project, these ones are the ones that have given you the best value so that you can choose between them which ones to test or not. That is something interesting that we're doing. And again, I think that it's the less straightforward AI functionality. It's not about solving stuff for you. I think that the best AI system that I know today, it's Waze. And it's great because it's not driving my car. It's giving me suggestions, where should I drive? And sometimes I override it and sometimes I use it. And I think that when I see AI for the future, it's going to be more about suggesting to us. It's not going to replace us. It's going to make us give us better ideas and suggest where should we invest more or not. So again, hopefully it's a path that we're going to be seeing a little bit more. Anything else before we move to our last question? It's been a pretty good session, people.
I was thinking that, I suspect that the reason that I'm not using AI tools for testing is so high is the ability to adopt inside the organization, security precautions, right? Bringing in these new tools. There's a lot of pushback on that, and because you're giving out, it's like, well, how much is this information am I giving out, and where is it going, where is it stored? And so
who is using it, who has access to that? That's a pretty important point. If you put something on ChatGPT, it becomes public knowledge for everyone. And
right. And so
it's not even really if I want to do it, can I do it? Maybe I don't have the privileged access to do it within my organization. So
plus I mean, I think one of my biggest concerns bigger concerns with this is that it still needs a certain level of maturity, right? I mean, a part of our community, a part of IT is almost drooling with enjoyment of the AI, right? Oh, that new silver bullet, right? But the thing is, a lot of organizations are way out there when it comes to the maturity that is needed to use AI in a confident and a secure manner and integrate it into their organization. I saw a great quote a couple of days ago from a guy saying that my experiences and my view is that AI can do wonders, but not before you make yourself mature. You cannot jump in there prematurely because AI wants to take you from the mature level to the next level of excellence, not from ground level.
AI wants to accelerate where you are.
I completely agree. I mean, AI doesn't concern me, but the people who are supposed to work with AI, it's my concern because it looks like we tend to have authority bias, and people don't understand that what they are interacting with is not an intelligent human or authoritative, knowledgeable expert, but simply an algorithm which can make mistake, which can hallucinate, which can even manipulate them. So if people are not going to critically question the information presented and the outcomes provided by AI, they are gonna set themselves up and also everyone else they are working for. So it's very important.
Yeah, the quote actually completes with saying there are several use cases that are really good use cases of AI implementation, but none of them will be helpful if you're not good at your basics.
And I
AI
think
is
that maturity
where you are. AI is going to accelerate where you are. So if you are immature, it's going to accelerate that, right? It's going to enhance that. If you are mature in your quality practices and your development practices and those type of things, 100%, it's going to make you more efficient. There's all these opportunities because you have developed a stronger muscle. But you get to hit the nail on the head, right? The foundation is not there. And so I think it's more about teams can't adopt it because of maturity, because of security, and because of budget. So they don't have access. Those three things, one of or more of those three things are blocking them from even having access in their day-to-day world. And then outside of that, it's just using GPTs, right? Like it's using open AI in like a browser format as opposed to tools like PractiTest, which could give you access to that, right?
Yep.
I think there's just limitations.
Okay, and I'm sorry for that, but we have 8 minutes, and I do want to cover this one because we've been talking about AI today, but let's dream for a second. Let's think about a better future where we are mature enough and the systems are secure enough and organizations know how to balance between internal knowledge and algorithms. Where do you anticipate generative AI will impact your testing? And here again, we're talking about generative AI, so maybe that's a little bit more. So there, about half people think that it will improve their test automation efficiency, ongoing learning for AI-driven testing, more diverse testing, so on and so forth. Where do you think, we can refer to this, but looking in the future, it might be 3 years from now, it might be 15 years from now. Where do you think the generative AI will take us as a profession? Gitte, we're doing a round already, so we're going to start with you now, again.
Oh, yeah, that's not fair because I really and utterly don't have a clue.
Come on.
No, I mean, I really think that depends on each individual company. I mean, for us as a profession, I think it's we're going into, like way back when we started doing being agile, we talked about testing going into 2 directions, either supporting the business or going into being technical test automation. And I think it'll be sort of the same again. We still need a tester profession that has a deep founded understanding of the business and can support the business with testing. And then AI will be able to support in terms of make the testing more efficient in terms of the input for the automation and do better automation. And maybe in time, we will be better educated into making the tool a help in terms of test design and so forth. But I think it is really a long, hard journey ahead of us before we go there, because we still have a big part of our profession that are not very strong in the test profession. And that's really what concerns me, because if I see one of them, one of the ones I noticed was the one with 22% potentially shift in testing roles towards overseeing AI processes. And when I see that, and then if I move towards the competences part again, and seeing that the competences in terms of test design and test experimentation, the percentages there have been half, from 60 to 30%. So half, so a much less focus on being good testers. How are you then able to oversee the AI processes? How are you going to oversee and evaluate and question AI? So I think that's actually one of the numbers I thought was interesting. That was my 5 cents, I think.
Go for it. Erika, how about you? Where do you see AI in the future impacting us? By the way, maybe it's for the bad. I'm not saying it's only for the good, it might be for the bad.
Sure. I think that we are going to see similar pushes as we did with automation coming up at the senior leadership level to say, we have to have this, we should be doing this, and why aren't we doing this now and quickly enough? And then we're going to see that leveling out where it's like, oh, wait a minute, we didn't put the strategy behind it, we didn't put the, we weren't mature in some areas, and we're going to see these swings, this pendulum swinging, and it's going to have to balance out, and then it's going to be a natural part of our toolkit, the test engineer's toolkit. It's very rare that you see test engineers today that don't have a good bit, a healthy of automation experience. And I think that's what's going to happen with AI, because we're going to first see all of these tools coming out with big AI promises, you know, and it's going to swing the industry really hard. And our senior leaders are going to see opportunity to decrease budgets, see opportunity to go faster, to scale quicker, because those are going to be the promises that are coming out of it. But to Gitte's point in the conversation that we've been having here, right? Like, there's still a lot of maturity that needs to happen to really see the value in it. So I think we're going to see some of that pendulum swinging, and then it's going to settle in the middle with it being part of our toolkit.
Okay. Lalit, where do you see AI in the future?
I think testability has been one of the key challenges that has impacted productivity and effectiveness of testers. And I believe AI-based solutions will be greatly helping us there, particularly in terms of AI observability, monitoring, automated analysis of, let's say, failure test cases, you know, creating some heat map based on those failing areas, identifying root causes of frequent failures. So a lot of work that used to be testers' responsibility, which AI can apparently take over, freeing them up to do their primary job better with more focus, or rather, I think testers will be compelled to do testing and take help of AI to expedite and make more efficient progress on the stuff that they were doing before as a side activity, or let's say test supporting activity. So there is an opportunity to smartly use AI where testers had traditional struggles. For whatever reasons, infrastructures were not sufficient, organizations did not invest, or solutions were too complicated to make them better testable. At the same time, those testers who do not know how to think critically, who do not know how to question the outputs produced by AI, they are going to have a hard time. So I think the impact is going to be in both ways. To some extent, it's definitely going to help do these activities faster and more effectively. And at the same time, it's gonna put not, I would say burden, but it's gonna compel testers to be really good at testing, because they got to be better than AI to really determine if they are getting manipulated or simply presented with the facts.
That's interesting. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to put my 2 cents in here. I think that AI will be an accelerator in the sense that we're going to be able to do stuff faster. We will be able to tell AI systems, I want to automate this with this and this parameters, and we will get a little bit more of better systems to do it. It won't tell us what to automate, but we will be able to do, for example, better automation based on models in there. But one point that I don't think that we put enough points in here is that the world is shifting right. Most of us are working on DevOps systems, and AI is incredibly good at looking at patterns over a lot of data. So it will help us, for example, to find bugs in production faster, to find root cause analysis faster, and maybe that way to increase the value that we provide as navigators of the quality during business. So that's one point that I think it's worth examining, but we're out of time, so I'm not going to be able to examine it further. So we're going to literally steal 2 minutes from everyone else. And I just want to, first of all, thank you on the forum, obviously people who attended, but also people on the forum. One final thought, one final word on where is testing in 2024, and where do you think testing will be in 2025? So we started with Gitte on the last question. Erika, where is testing going to be in 2025 with respects to 2024, or 2030 if you want? Go as far as you want.
More AI. I mean, I think it's gonna be more AI. I think we're gonna organizations are gonna start to unlock the ability to bring that in and invest in those areas. I think leaders are looking for that. Quality leaders are looking for that, and we're gonna be fighting for it.
Okay, we're gonna be figuring out how to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, Gitte, how about you? Where are we headed? You're muted. Wait.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that there will be more AI. We just have to figure out to do it the right way, whatever that is.
To figure it out.
Yeah, and then I hope we become better at focusing at doing good testing in general.
Sounds
in
good.
the agile teams. Everybody.
Everybody. Lalit, what are your thoughts? Where are we headed?
Particularly in testing context, I would say it's gonna be about AI, but not artificial intelligence, but more authentic intelligence. By that I mean
that was profound.
It's going to be more about people having to invest a lot on their own human intelligence to better collaborate with artificial intelligence solutions, because AI is already here. Now it's on us how to level up our game and prepare ourselves to utilize it better, make it better to help us better.
So Lalit, if you don't know him by now, he's a very big advocate of critical thinking, and we love you for that. Excellent. So once again, to our forum, thank you very, very much. It was extremely insightful, and maybe I'm geeking out, but I really enjoyed it. So thanks for taking part, and I hope to see everyone else again in the future, and also for the attendees, thanks for joining us. That's it for now, and everyone, have a great rest of the day, and enjoy your testing. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all. Bye.